All right, so we have hit the third album of the beloved Weird Al Yankovic, and it is called Dare to Be Stupid. Dare to Be Stupid was released in 1985 and has a total of 11 tracks on it. And the first track on this album is an absolute Weird Al classic called Like a Surgeon. This is a parody of Like a Virgin by Madonna. And a fun fact about Like a Surgeon is that Madonna herself actually requested this parody to Al. And this is the only Weird Al song that was requested by someone. Although this is an absolute classic and a smash hit for Al, I'm not the biggest fan. Now, before I get keyboard warriors in the comments, let me explain. So, first off, the music itself isn't very good. I've never been a huge fan of Madonna, and I certainly am not a fan of Like a Virgin. But at least this one has funny lyrics instead of the feeling of having sex for the first time. But not only are the lyrics fairly goofy, but the music video is awesome. It mocks Madonna's video with the lion walking around the hospital's corridors, and with Al's dancing as well. With all that said, I'll give it a 6.25 out of 10. Following that, we have a Weird Al original with Dare to Be Stupid. Of course, this shares the name with the album, and this song is absolutely nonsensical, and I love it. It goes from squeezing Charmin to sticking your head into the microwave to get a tan. This is easily Al's wackiest track to date, and I'm in love with it. I'll give it a pretty good 7.5 out of 10. Next up, track 3 is a weaker Al song called I Want a New Duck. This is a parody of I Want a New Drug by Huey Lewis and the News. This song really lacks an important key in Weird Al's success, and that is comedy. It's not funny at all. It's just a guy singing about how he wants to buy a duck. It's really bad, and that's all I can say about it. I'll give it a 2.25 out of 10. Next up, we are back on a high note because this one is an all-time favorite of mine called One More Minute. This song is a real story of how Al felt after his girlfriend broke up with him. Basically, the entire time he's saying how he'd rather do all these horrible things to himself than spend one more minute with his ex, all while it's a friendly doo-wop style song in the background. It's a genius idea, and I'm sure with the success of the song, Al is very happy he got dumped. Anyways, I'll give this one an 8.75 out of 10. Next up, track 5 is another classic called Yoda. This is obviously about the short, green Star Wars character whose name is Yoda. This is a parody of Lola by Ray Davies. It's a very good song. And having watched Star Wars for the first time about a year ago, it really helps the song because I understand some of the references and all that. It's a really good song. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Next up, we have Al's first and only cover featured on an album, and that is George of the Jungle. It's not funny, obviously, but I really do like Al's vocals in this one. I think it just fits in perfectly with the song, the George of the Jungle. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. But I just don't like the song itself. And this album, in my opinion, would be a lot better off without this, just because it's over a minute long and so unnecessary compared to everything else. I'll give it a 3 out of 10. Next up, we are breezing by this. We have hit track 7. But this one is another disappointment, which is Slime Creatures from Outer Space. This song is rather annoying than anything else. From the just cringeworthy sci-fi music to the annoying voice filters Al decided to incorporate, it's not the greatest of his works, and I'll always skip it whenever it comes on. I'll give it a 0.75 out of 10. Next up, track 8 is Girls Just Want to Have Lunch. This is an obvious parody of Girls Just Want to Have Fun by Cyndi Lauper. And even though this is super simple and incredibly predictable parody, I really like it. It's comedic and the music sounds exactly like the original. It's just, and it's not like the joke is like run old either. I don't know why. It's really good. I'll give it a 6.25 out of 10. Next up, we have This Is the Life. And this is basically making fun of rich people who don't pay their dues and buy a bunch of unnecessary things instead of saving their money. It's quite funny, but musically is pretty annoying. There isn't much to say about this song other than it's pretty good. So I'll do a little bit above even with a 5.5 out of 10. Next up, track 10 is the last. Excuse me. Track 10 is the last normal song, and it's called Cable TV. This one isn't very good. It's just making fun of TV junkies, I think. It's not very funny, and its musical style doesn't stand out either. A pretty weak way to lead into the finale, but it's still not horrible. It's listen toable, if that makes sense. Like, I would listen to it if it came on. It's just I'd rather be listening to other Weird Al songs, so I'll give it a 4.25 out of 10. After that, the final song on the album is Hooked on Polkas, and you guessed it, it's another polka medley. Now, there's nothing special about it, so I'll do what I did for Polkas on 45 and give it a 5 out of 10. Boom. So there you have it. Weird Al Yankovic's Dare to Be Stupid album has been reviewed. In my opinion, the first half is almost perfect, and the second half is pretty bad besides Girls Just Want to Have Lunch and This Is the Life. But yeah, overall, I think it's a decent album that just ends on a worse note than it starts on. So, yeah, but you know what time it is. It's time to find out the final score, which we do by calculating the average. Alright, average has been calculated, and it is the first Weird Al album we've covered to get over 5 out of 10. And in fact, it's the first album we've covered to get over 5 out of 10, which is kind of sad considering that I'm trying to review albums that I enjoy first. Maybe I'm being too critical. But Dare to Be Stupid's final score is 5.136 out of 10. And that means that it is the best album that we have reviewed here on the channel. Of course, just getting over Harry Styles, which had a total of 4.925, almost a 5, but not quite. But anyways, yeah, Dare to Be Stupid is 100% complete, so I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this album and album suggestions in the comments. I will see you later.